This is the USAI Collabatory in SoHo, and it is the place to come learn about how downlights work on your job and see the widest variety and the best quality downlights in the country. The man in charge of the USAI Collabatory is Timothy Hart. So he's going to walk us through the space and sort of orient us in here. Timothy, when this space launched, I know the goal was sort of to bring designers in and teach about downlighting, but how's it grown in the last 6 years?
Correct, yeah. The space originally was opened up more as like a pop-up space, especially down here in kind of the SoHo area. You have a lot more of those pop-up experiences throughout it. Bonnie's vision for this space was kind of a children's museum of light, but for adults. So she really wanted people to be able to come in here, see the lights for themselves, actually get to see how the light fixtures work, get to touch them, play with them a little bit, and we saw how successful this space ended up being and ended up keeping it open for a longevity of time. And we feel it's been a huge plus for us as a company as a whole. We've been able to have people come in, see for themselves how the lighting works overall, and to actually experience it being underneath the lights.
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of the big challenges with lighting design versus other disciplines is if I bring you in a stone sample into your office, you get a pretty good sense of what that stone is going to look like, feel like, etc. Light is immersive, right? Especially downlighting, because a single downlight, you know, I'm a sales guy, right? I'm going to bring you a single downlight sample into your office. I'm going to shine it up against the wall and show all the things it does, and that's great. But when you come into a space like this that's totally immersive, you get a sense for what these downlights in aggregate are going to do in a given area. So that's how the space is designed, and we're going to walk through these different areas and kind of give you a sense for why you need to come visit, because it's an amazing design tool and you're going to learn a lot. Every corner of the Collabatory shows different technologies and different aspects of how USAI approaches downlighting, and nothing has been growing more in the industry than integration, right? It's been a key word, whether we're talking about controls, we're talking about ceiling types or architectural features, and this table is just a little hint of the different integrations that USAI is capable of. So Timothy, what are we looking at?
So right now we are looking at a wonderful partnership between USAI Lighting and Armstrong Ceilings. It's a really great handshake between both companies of looking at, as you say, the integrations between a lot of their ceiling types with our downlights. Because before it was always more kind of like a contractor pain of being able to fit downlights within some of these structured ceilings. Originally it worked in kind of tech zone ceilings where it was within individual linear grids within the space itself. From there, we've actually working with them to actually get you a nice trimless looking appearance in an ACT tile ceiling itself. Being able to work with them on the coordination back and forth on making sure that they know that lights are going to be going in their ceiling tile. They flag it on their end to let us know that, hey, we've got their ceiling type going on a project, and making sure a lot of that collaboration happens back and forth. And we've been able to continue that partnership ongoing with other materials as well. So right now with their woodwork ceiling, and we're also upcoming bringing out, working with their metalwork ceiling.
Okay, so let's talk about the wall of housings, right?
The wall.
So as you go out throughout the space, you're going to see the downlights installed as you would see them in final installation. But what's going on above the ceiling is where a lot of the innovation at USAI happens. So, Timothy, we don't have to go through every product, but let's walk through sort of what we're looking at up on this wall.
Yeah, so on our housing wall, what we do is a nice little breakdown between the different families that we have, between our Beveled 2.2, which is a 4-inch aperture. So we're able to show those how large the housings can be within that kind of family itself. And then also within our Beveled Mini series, our family, that is our 3-inch aperture fixture, which is below here.
Right.
To give the clients a nice understanding of not only like the range, the size of housing, but also able to look at different tiers that we have within each of the families itself.
Right.
Giving them the option to see how shallow of a housing we can actually offer with some of the fixtures, as well as how large with certain capabilities that we need with some of the fixtures. So like if you go to adjustability, we're not necessarily able to do that in such a smaller fixture.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what I like about this wall and about this sort of discussion is everyone wants smaller and they want higher ceilings, especially in New York City, right? We want to drive those ceilings up as high as we can. The compromise there is what housings you're going to get. But what USAI has done over the years is managed to shrink and shrink and shrink these housings down to the point where you really are being able to pull that sheetrock up as high as humanly possible, without sacrificing light quality, right? There may be some functions that you lose out on, like adjustability, but overall, you get to really get the story of what all these different housings are capable of doing.
Correct, and we've even worked with even our adjustable fixtures on making sure we can get a nice shallow housing out of that as well. Right. So we've gotten that to about 4 inches in height, which is really fantastic.
Right.
But one of the really neat things that we're able to do with all of our housings, and it's kind of like a mantra with USAI, is serviceability and maintenance from below the ceiling. And this is one of kind of the key features that we always love to point out, is that you can actually service the LED engine, service the optic, as well as even access the driver from below the ceiling. And all that is just a matter of popping out the trim itself to get access to inside the fixture.
All right.
So it's a nice little demonstration we always do within the space.
Well, and so the history here is, USAI, for those who aren't familiar, is a company that dates well before the history of LED, right? And so it was always required that you were able to swap out lamps and transformers and all the parts and pieces that made an MR16 downlight or an A-lamp downlight or PAR downlight, wherever you were working with, from below the ceiling. When LED downlights first hit the market, there was this sort of, and still to this day, a lot of manufacturers will embed a certain module in there, and then when the thing dies, the whole thing dies. USAI never thought that way. So from the very beginning, there was this idea of modularity. So that you're able to pull out the LED engine, pull out the driver, pull out any of the component parts, and swap them out down the road. So if you embed these in the ceiling, and we're talking about how LED is going to last 75,000 hours, 100,000 hours, all right, well, 10, 15 years from now, when the use of the space changes and you want to go from big wide floodlights down to little spotlights because the space went from a showroom to a restaurant, you're able to do that from below the ceiling without tearing open the ceiling. So that is a part of the mindset that USAI brought to the table, and this wall tells that story. Nothing explains better in terms of what you're going to deal with your clients than actually bringing them in here and walking them through the engineering challenge of every space has to have a max height ceiling. You can't have a max height ceiling necessarily and light your art properly, right?
Yeah.
So but this wall is a way of sort of explaining what's going on above the ceiling. And it's not just an advertisement, it's also a piece of education.
Exactly, because we do a wonderful job of showing clients just the room side appearance that they're going to be getting, which is what they see most of the time. But of course, they do have the questions like, what is happening above? What do I want to do if I want to change out the lamp? So it's actually a really great discussion of opening up one of these fixtures and showing them the LED board that's inside, that they're not constantly having to change out a lamp, that they're more used to doing kind of nowadays, or back in the past a little bit.
Right.
So showing how over time, you're going to get a lot more longevity out of these LED fixtures than you would have.
All right, so traditionally USAI was known as a downlighting company that worked above the ceiling. But as design has changed and we've sort of evolved into these commercial spaces that have fixtures that live below the ceiling, so too has USAI evolved. And so we have this wall of cylinders, right? So if the wall of housings is across from us, the wall of cylinders is behind us. We also have some other fun toys down here. We'll get to those in a second. So Timothy, talk to me about what we're looking at up on this wall.
Yeah, so you were talking about we're mostly known for like recessed fixtures, but we actually have a lot of great solutions for any sort of exposed ceiling projects, particularly with either surface-mounted cylinder fixtures or also pendant versions as well. Actually, one of the coolest things that we've came out in recent years is our bevel-led block fixture. This really works with any sort of exposed ceiling that has a J-box that's attached to the ceiling itself. A lot of times we are hearing complaints from designers that you are always seeing the J-box up in the ceiling.
Right.
And so we came up with a really nice way of actually concealing that overall with our conduit cutout canopy, which actually just kind of fits over the J-box itself and gives you a nice clean appearance with that, and then having the conduit come out itself. So we've been really happy with a lot of kind of these nice exposed ceiling options that we have, ranging from larger fixture size down to a little bit smaller. But one of the good things is that it matches the fixture family aperture of our recessed fixture. So kind of like the larger ones that you have on your side and the beveled block, this matches more with our beveled 2.2 family. And more of the smaller cylinder, as you're showing right there, even though longer in height, the diameter matches the beveled mini. So this is a great way of having these kind of fixture families match across the project as a whole.
One of the themes that I want to keep coming back to in terms of coming to visit the Collabatory is when you're on the website, you'll see images of cylinders, or you'll see images of the downlights themselves, and it's really hard to get a sense of scale, right? When we're talking about an 8-inch or a 6-inch cylinder. When you actually get in here and you look at the variety of sizes of aperture and of the cylinders themselves, in a space, in a situation, you get a much better sense for what this is actually going to mean from a design standpoint. So when your client is telling you an 8-inch cylinder is way too big, it's never going to work, and it's actually that you have a 15-foot ceiling, you'll realize, as designers you'll know, but your clients sometimes need to be shown that it's actually not that big a deal, or that these proportions will work.
Exactly. So from like far away really helps out. So yeah, not only seeing scale, but also functionality of the fixtures itself. So like one of the recent things is our new adjustable cylinder. So actually being able to show clients how it exactly is able to tilt full 90 degrees, since most people are more used to a little bit more shallower, and then also the full rotation out of the fixture. So we're actually able to get these in the hands of clients themselves so they can actually see the functionality of what they're getting out of the light fixture.
Yeah, and then just below, we're looking at these shelves down here.
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking at down here?
Correct. So not only do we have like recessed, round, and square fixtures, we have a few other form factors as well. One in particular is our Micro series. It's a little bit more kind of a linear form factor, individual cells itself. Right. Each cell about 250 delivered lumens out of this. Sure. So it's a really great line. It's a little bit more kind of like decorative in appearance, which is fantastic. We have it both in a recessed format as well as pendant, which has actually worked wonderfully for a lot of kind of like wood slat ceilings kind of situations, where you're wanting that linear format along with the wood ceiling itself. That's so we've been coming up with a few other different form factors overall. We even have a really nice dropped glass, or so opal glass lens. This is our glow fixture itself. What it does is it still provides a nice downlight, but then the glass itself gives a nice little ambiance glow to the ceiling. Mm-hmm. So it's a really great way of being able to just show the full gambit that USAI offers with different family lines.
So not only do we have all this like showroom space, but we've got an outdoor little patio here, right? With furniture and stuff.
Yeah, huge outdoor patio area, which is really nice, especially right now during the summertime in the hot summer heat of New York City.
Yeah.
It's pretty good to be able to get out here, be able to do some drinks out here in the evening, because we work with different specifiers on making different events for you within the space, not only inside the space, but also outside as well.
So this is not a converted alleyway. It is an outdoor space for sitting and having a good time outside. Look, the reality is that the Collabatory, the showroom, whatever you want to call it, is just a tool. It's we've spent a lot of time in the last 18 months working from behind our screens and looking at an individual downlight, an individual fixture of any kind really, doesn't tell the full story. And so getting into the space and really getting to see what the light does in aggregate, what it's like to feel that great sense of light, the change in color, the change in CRI, just the sort of quality of light that USAI brings to things is what's going to move the needle as far as being a design tool and working with your clients to moving forward. So thanks for letting me wander around the space with a camera.
Definitely. Thank you for stopping on by. Highly encourage everyone to be able to stop on by, either as specifier yourself or to bring your clients on by. We've even discussed with clients coming back once they finalize finishes for their space, so they can actually see how things look underneath the lighting that we have within the showroom area.
Yeah, so whether we're talking about figuring out color temperatures, figuring out CRI, or doing something fun like tunable or dim to warm, warm glow here in the USAI language, we can test all of those things live and in person here at the showroom. So I think that's everything, right?
I think so too, yeah. Thanks for stopping on by.
Thanks, buddy.
Definitely.